Object in TypeScript. In this video, I'm going to cover three basic points that are object type in TypeScript, second is object type inference, and third is optional properties in object. So let's start. How do we type object in TypeScript? TypeScript has a specific syntax for typing objects. To define an object, we just simply have to write its properties and their types, and then lastly its value. So let's understand this with example. Let's say we have an object called person which has a property of name and it has a type of a string, and then we have second property called age and it has a type of a number, and then let's define its value. So let's say name property has a value of John, and second we have an age property that has a value of number, so it is going to be definitely a number, let's say 25. Now what we did here is firstly we said that person is going to be an object which has two properties, that is name and it has a type of a string, and then second property is age and that has a type of a number, and then we declared values for each of its properties, John and 25 for properties called name and age. Now what if I want to add another property? We can do it by adding a comma, and let's say ID, which is going to be a number, and let's declare ID here. Let's say ID and it's 1. So this is how we type object in TypeScript. Now let's start with object type inference. We can even declare an object without mentioning its type for each of its value. Here what TypeScript will does it will infer the type of a properties based on the values that we have typed. So let's say for example let person2, that is we have another object and it has two properties called name which has a value of Bob, and then we have another property called age which has a value of 30. The difference in person and person2 object is that here in person we declare the type of name, age and ID to be string, number and number respectively, but here we did not declare the properties type, name and age. Here what TypeScript did is it inferred the type of name to be string here as you will see, and age to be a number. So this is how object type inference works. TypeScript infers the type of the properties based on the values we type. Now what if I change here and say that it's true, that is a boolean value, and now when we hover over name you will see that TypeScript guessed the type of a name to be a boolean value. Okay, so this is how TypeScript infers the type of properties. Now what if we try to reassign the type of any of its properties? Let's say person 2 dot name, no, let's say age is going to be a string of 21, or let's take the same value but it is in the form of string. Here we got the red line, and when we hover over it, it will say that type string is not assignable to type number. That means we wrote 30 in the form of string, but in this it is a number, so that's why TypeScript gave an error. So this is object type inference in TypeScript. Now let's start with optional properties in object. What are optional properties? Optional property mean property in an object can be optional. It can be an object or it cannot be. Let's understand it with example. Let's say we have another object called person3 and it has property name which is a string, and then age which is a number, and then its value. Let's say name is John and age is 25. This is basically an object we typed out here. So what is optional property here? Now when I remove age from here, you will see that we got the red line, and when we hover over it, it will say that property age is missing. Here we declare that age is going to be an object, but in values we did not define it, so it gave us the red line. Now to make age as an optional property, we just have to add a question mark, and you will see that the red line went away, which means here TypeScript said that age is an optional. It either can be an object or it cannot be. So this is optional properties in object. You just have to add a question mark after the property which you want to be optional. It can be there or it cannot be. Now let's see what does age give us in console. For that we have to define console.log person3.age. Before it, let's say person3 age is, and then person3.age. Now to see this in console, let's open up our terminal and let's go in dist folder in which we have JavaScript file, and then let's say tsc and then node index. You will see that it gave us person3 age is undefined because we said that age is optional. It can be or it cannot be. So here we got it's undefined because we did not define age here. Now let's do it outside the object. Person3 dot age equals 34, and let's save this, and let's again see this in console. Let's say tsc and then node index, and now it will give us person3 age is 34 because we define it but outside the object. Okay, so this is how we write optional properties in object. And now I hope this video cleared object types, object type inference, and optional properties in objects in TypeScript. So this is all for this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye.